We have more big tech earnings. Apple and Amazon will take their turn here in a few minutes as the questions of whether all the spending we've seen on artificial intelligence is worth it continue to linger in the background of the market. Today, at least, the worth it camp looks like it's winning, and that's thanks in large part to Microsoft last night. Microsoft's having a huge day. Doug Flynn is here from Flynn Zito Capital Management. Did you see Claudine curse me out right before the break there? So I'm a little shaken up by that.
I see that, yeah. Are you allowed to curse on cable TV? I'm not sure.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want. There's no regulations at all. So go ahead, whatever you want to say.
Good.
I might not, but you can do whatever you want. So Microsoft's up I think it's like 16 or 17%. I mean, it's a huge day. It's the best day for Microsoft since 2008, which, as I said earlier, I didn't look it up, but I assume that was probably bouncing back from a horrible day, the way things were going in 2008. But what about that and what it says about the larger discussion you and I have talked about a few times this week, which is whether all the AI spending is worth it?
Yeah, it keeps bouncing back and forth. You saw Apple do really well for a while when the chips were selling off, and that's because they're taking a different tack than the rest of the companies that are more involved with the AI infrastructure build-out. So today is back on with the infrastructure build-out. You saw that. You see Amazon taking a certain way and spending that money in that end. And so Microsoft as well as Amazon, those are more into like the cloud. Is this going to help them with their cloud revenue? And it looks like it is, and it will continue, and that's the thing. If you're going to spend all this money, you have to have a payoff. Investors in the market are looking for that payoff. Is it going to be there? And so on a day like today, when they're looking at those are the stocks that are doing well. And then when it sells off a little bit, look to the other areas and saying maybe that's more of an Apple play because they haven't spent the money and they're doing AI just in a different way.
Yeah, what about that? So I get it. Microsoft has this cloud business. We'll look for AWS, which is Amazon's cloud business tonight. But what about Apple and what we should be watching there? They kind of become the butt of the jokes when it comes to AI, but it's still one of, if not, depends on the day, the most valuable companies in the world, and obviously still makes all these consumer products that we all use. So what about Apple tonight?
That's right. Yeah, Apple is up like 24% year to date, and that is by far better than all of the tech stocks. And that's because as things kind of sold off, you have to look at it like this. I would put it like this. Apple selling sort of the AI on the front end with the devices. That's their foray into AI. And places like, companies like Amazon and Microsoft are more on the back end. They're doing the infrastructure, the warehouse, the dock, that kind of thing. And together, you probably need both of them. It's just a different way to do it. And so we're going to see how it actually plays out. But that's really the thing. Right now, everybody's focused on whatever you're spending, whatever it is and wherever you're spending on. Is it going to translate into more revenue? And it looks like it will. And so that's the thing. But if you overspend, there are going to be some companies that don't make every investment very well. And that's where, there'll be some pushback here and there. And then a company that's doing it differently will do well.
What does it mean for the economy, all this spending, our macro economy? Like we had this number today that the focus is that it was under expectations GDP growth. But we have a screen here that shows the core GDP data signaling that AI investment growth is driving things in the second quarter. Strong private sector demand led by exactly what we've been talking about, the AI infrastructure investment. So what about like the big picture economic impact of all of this?
That is so true. The numbers that came out today really were soft, but that's because there were some volatile numbers in there that were negative. If you push those to the side and look deeper, things are not as bad as that headline number looks. And part of it has to do with consumer spending. That's done really well. And the AI spending, the AI infrastructure spending, that construction, that was up 15%. You also have things like, R&D, which is up 7.5%, and other software areas that are up double digits. So that's in those numbers. It just got clouded by these other volatile numbers that were negative that brought down the headline number. And so you have to, like anything, you can't just look at one number. You have to look a little bit deeper. And so although it's mixed, and I would say it's mixed because the inflation numbers are the thing that's really holding us back. But those consumer numbers, if you add in other spending like home building and other areas, some of those numbers are the best numbers you've seen in 3 years. But that headline number just doesn't say anything like that.
All right, that's interesting. We'll see how it is when Apple reports and Amazon reports. We'll cover those probably in our next hour of coverage and put it all together. But again, like Doug says, GDP was light, but there was more to it today. Thank you, Doug, as always.